everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And today, Dan and I are going to revisit something that we did a podcast on, I want to say a couple of years ago when...
It was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, or maybe even longer than that. Kind of when the House of Cards started up and...
how many years? That's
we're coming up into fourth season, yeah. Boy, it just doesn't feel that long ago, does it, Dan?
Yeah.
But anyway, we were at that point talking about the future of television and how the market is kind of is kind of changing, and the avenues for getting shows out is changing, and with Netflix and Hulu and online streaming aggregates like that making their own programming, and how is that going to change the landscape of television? Well, we now are in the future, and the landscape of television has already changed quite a bit, and we were not talking about it this way, I don't think, although I didn't go back and re-listen to that video, but at the time I don't believe we were throwing around yet TV renaissance. We are now most certainly in a TV renaissance, Dan, and I hear that thrown around all the time. I think people are right about that, and it's the best time, I think, in my lifetime for scripted television. I remember being, in the early 2000s, terrified that the days of scripted television were kind of over, and that everything from then on was going to be about making entertainment on the cheap, and it was so inexpensive to make reality television that we weren't going to get to enjoy especially genre stuff because it was just too expensive to make, kinds of scripted television. And now we are so inundated with it that there's a lot of wonderful things, Dan, that I just don't even have time to get on board with yet.
I'm with you. Like, Game of Thrones seems like something that I would love. I love high fantasy and I love politics, and that's kind of what the show is, but I just don't have time to watch it. Everyone tells me it's amazing. But yeah, I'm so glad that happened. Like, I feel as if the renaissance of scripted television is kind of all of the talent that and ideas people had for scripted television that welled up and are now coming to the surface now that reality television has kind of died.
Yeah, and I mean, it hasn't completely died, and the good news is, in my opinion, a lot of what has been left over and sticking around for reality TV is the kind of reality TV I can stand, which is more of just like competitive shows and kind of elaborate game shows, as opposed to just like a bunch of people in a house arguing with each other all the time. And you still have that element of it, but we have found with things like Biggest Loser and shows like that people don't like the drama. There have been seasons of that show where they really touted up the drama and stuff, and the big selling thing for it was supposed to be how much fun it was watching these people be entitled and bicker and stuff. People hated that. The very next season, they did everything they could do to not have people on that show that were like that. I've been watching... what is it? Masterchef Junior. That's a lot of fun. It's a bunch of kids that are brilliant cooks competing in a kitchen, making like really hoity-toity highfalutin dishes, and with judges like Gordon Ramsay, and that's kind of fun. It's like upscale Nickelodeon, and like that's really cool. So I'm just saying that, like, even reality TV, I think, has been affected positively by this.
Yeah, that's true. And there's some reality TV stuff that I like and enjoy, too. Like, I generally... In general, I despise the direction that the History Channel is winning. But two of the shows that I like on the History Channel are Pawn Stars and American Pickers, because I'm just a dork. I like seeing old things and the history behind them. They briefly explain to you, like, some of the cool items that come to the store. And what the people, the pickers find when they're out looking at junk and stuff.
Yeah, I
like shows
I
like
need to watch some of that.
Some of the drama stuff in that is, like, clearly staged, and I could do without it. But, like, the parts of the show where they're actually talking about, like, history, I really enjoy that aspect.
I used to enjoy Storage Wars before I found out just how staged that was.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a few episodes of that, and it gets nuts sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I used to... Well, and the thing is, when I found out that they planted a lot of stuff in those storage units, I was like, well, there's no point in watching this anymore.
Right, yeah.
But, I grew up, as you know, in the junk business, and I went to a lot of auctions, and the thing I liked about that show was getting to watch auctions again. I really missed that. But anyway, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So, so today we want to kind of revisit that topic a little bit, and let's springboard it with the news that came out today, as of this recording. that CBS, and I had heard that they were pushing for this, but apparently it's definitely seeming to be happening now, that CBS wants to pull all of the CW shows off of Netflix. And the big thing I had heard before was that they wanted to strategize getting rid of all the superhero shows on streaming stuff in general, so that people would be forced to watch it on cable and to subscribe to their own streaming service. What I didn't realize was that it was CBS in the first place doing this. I thought it was CW. I thought it was just Warner Brothers, but apparently CBS owns all those shows, which is going to make this discussion really interesting because of what I've been saying lately about how irritated I am with CBS All Access and how they want to handle Star Trek and all of that. And I'm not saying that my mind is totally changed on it, but now I have kind of a more complex opinion, and we'll have to talk about that. But first of all, you didn't know that either, yeah?
I thought that CW was an entirely Warner Brothers owned channel, but apparently it's co-owned by Warner Brothers and CBS. That's why the C and the W is in the name. Apparently,
I never knew that. Well, you'd think back when I was a kid and UPN ended and became the CW, no one was talking about that. Like everybody was like, "What did the C and the W say?" It was like a big mystery, and everybody was like, "I guess we'll never know."
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, and
sort of pre-wiki days, so I don't know.
Wasn't it called the WB at one point?
Yeah,
too?
yeah. When growing up, it was the WB. You had UPN, and you had the WB, and UPN and WB merged and became the CW. And what confused everybody was they were like, "Well, those letters would not make the letters CW," and everyone was very confused as to what exactly they meant. But yeah, the WB, that's where Buffy was. I think I know that's where Angel was, and
that was kind of like the young adult Warner Brothers channel, right?
And what I'm trying to remember is if it was late enough that Smallville started on the CW, or if Smallville was on when it changed. I'd have to look it up because I can't remember exactly what year it changed. I think it was later, because what was really interesting was that you launched UPN with the big flagship show for UPN was Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, okay.
And UPN, no, that's what happened. It was in 2001, so I think Smallville did start with CW, because UPN begins and ends with Star Trek. It started in 94 with Voyager, and then it ended and became the CW when Enterprise started.
Okay.
So that was kind of interesting. It began and ended with Star Trek, but anyway... So that kind of explains why they were up in the air about where exactly they wanted to put Supergirl.
Yes, that's true. And maybe that adds a little bit more credence, at least, to the fact that they might cross over at some point. There's been some talk about that lately. I've seen in articles and things.
Yeah, and there's been some talk.
Negotiate that.
Yeah, and the way they would probably do it would be through one of the 52 dimensions in Flash.
Right. Yes.
Which I'd love to see. I mean, I think it'd be really cool to do that. I hope they do that instead of pretending like they were always in the same universe, because that makes no sense.
Yeah, that'd be really strange.
Just because, clearly Superman's been there for a long time, and the world seems to kind of revolve around the Kryptonian stuff, and then
exactly.
There's no talk about aliens at all in that show. I thought it was in Flash and Arrow. I thought it was really weird, I'm jumping everywhere, that in Flash and Arrow, we've already gotten to magic, but there's still no extraterrestrial stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like no one's going to be surprised by aliens when that finally starts happening.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
It's like, we know you can do magic spells now, but aliens, well, that's way out there. But anyway, so I didn't realize that CBS was going to end up factoring into this discussion of superhero shows going away from streaming, so that so that networks can try to make people watch them on TV or wherever else they actually want to make sure that they watch them. I don't know if that's mostly because of they're not wanting to go through like a middleman, or if it's because they don't and that they think they can make more money with it, or if it has more to do with trying to make the ratings look like they want them to. Like if they can force people to watch things when they're on, then the ratings will look right. I don't know if it has anything to do with all that, because we still don't count online the way we ought to, and we certainly don't count online with Netflix, because that's people binge watching a thing after a season's over. So I don't know what exactly and it might be a complex combination of many things, Dan, but I don't know what exactly the motivation is behind this. But I have heard for a while this idea of like, let's not have any superhero shows, especially on streaming, and force people to watch it some other way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely a combination of factors. I mean, when a company makes a decision like that, it's got to be, most of the time it's more than one singular reason. But I think I think there's credence to both, actually. But like you're saying, I mean, maybe they're assessing that if we force everyone to watch when it's on, or at least we take it off streaming, so that's not an option for people. More people will watch it when it's on, and we'll be able to get higher ratings and therefore more money from ad revenue, because we can charge companies more money to put an advertisement during our program or whatever. And then I think the middleman argument is really compelling too, because before, these companies never had a middleman. They could just put their content on cable however they wanted. They could put ads wherever they wanted. It was all under their control. And now with Netflix, the way that they make licensing deals with them, they say it depends on, everyone is negotiated differently, but there's two types that I've gleaned from the articles I've read. One of them is Netflix pays, the specific one was $200 million to Disney to get access to their catalog. So they get to pick and choose what Disney stuff they use, and that's all fine. Like anything Disney owns, they can put on there for under the $200 million deal. Or they did pay $45 million for Lost by itself, so they can pay for an entire series by itself too. So maybe CBS figures, well, our series, whatever we put out, if they're a hit on Netflix, if we're stuck in a pre-negotiated deal, if we have to adjust things, it's going to be very difficult for us to maneuver with this fixed middleman contract that we have. So we want to have it under our control and make our own streaming service. I think it's compelling to make either of those arguments, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Well, and you're talking about an initial lump sum as opposed to, putting a thing out and yourself, and then getting to generate that revenue yourself. And it's difficult to tell. You're taking a gamble either way, because it's hard to tell which one is going to make you the most dollars. The question that I would have is, because I didn't read the articles you did, so tell me if you gleaned this, because I knew that there was a contract and that those two models. What I don't know is if they have to pay the same money again when the contract is up, or if it does it go down, or like
contract expires.
Yeah,
that's I believe that's the way.
And that's how, by the way, things go on and off Netflix. So when people will complain, how come they can't have everything, or how come things will be there and leave and stuff. Well, it's because when the contract for either a particular movie or a TV show or a whole catalog, as you said, comes up, it might not be worth it for Netflix anymore to pay to pay what they're paying, or to pay whatever it is that they want, because it's not one of their it's not viewed enough, and so it's not worth it to them.
Yeah, and I think one of the factors here too is considering how big streaming has gotten and how prevalent it's gotten. I mean, I sent you an article about how large Netflix is. They announced that over 50% of Americans are Netflix subscribers, and they've expanded their service to over 130 countries in the world. I mean, there's very few, due to U.S. law, that they can't expand their business into, or haven't been able to because of the country's domestic law. Like, they can't go into Crimea or North Korea because of U.S. law. There's embargoes and things like that, and then they haven't been able to go into China because of Chinese censorship laws. So there's some countries they haven't been able to expand their business into, but they've gotten big enough in the U.S. and globally that they're a major player in the programming television thing now, in that they have a lot of leverage over companies in negotiating these contracts.
Yeah, and
if you want access to the biggest streaming market in the world, you kind of have to play ball with Netflix.
Yeah, right? and what's really interesting about it, too, is that we're not looking at something like Pepsi and Coke or Walmart and Target. You've got Netflix, and then you've got that other 50% being spread through a lot of different companies.
It's pretty much the two other biggest competitors are Amazon Prime and
Hulu.
And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think they're around 15 and 20% of the country of Americans have those services. And some of those might be the same people, so we don't know if it's they're in camps, like most people have one or the other. It might be, some people have all three, some people have one.
That's a good point. Well, certainly some people do. Yeah, and what's interesting is the other thing that's interesting in looking at that compared to other sorts of splitting up of markets is that, like I'll use the Pepsi Coke example again. These are both sodas. They make you the same thing. They exist for the same reason. You're not going to have a taste test between Netflix and Hulu. What Netflix does and what they try to get you on board for is slightly different than what those other two things are. Netflix is all binge watch or watch movies mostly well after they've come out. Now, they'll have some things that come out real soon after, but like, Amazon Prime will get things the week the DVDs and Blu-rays come out to stream and well, not Amazon if you want to like pay for, a rental to stream. Right. They'll get a thing right away, but they exist for different reasons. People pay for Amazon Prime primarily to get their shipping costs down. And then they get because that's one of the perks you get with Amazon Prime. That is the one of all of these things that exists as a different thing than just streaming. I mean, right. Yes, Netflix you can still get you still get on the tier that will ship DVDs and Blu-rays to your house, but Amazon's not just about streaming and movies. They also are still Amazon, because they'll buy anything. You buy groceries on Amazon, you buy anything on Amazon. So most of us that have Amazon Prime, it's because we buy so much on Amazon that we want to get those shipping costs lowered. So for the $15 a month or whatever it is I pay, I get free shipping, and so I actually make out better than I would if I was having to pay every time I ship something. But then Hulu, most people have that so that they can watch new TV shows instead of having to watch them on cable when they come out. And a lot of people, I've been hearing the term cord cutters coming up a lot, and those of us, and I'm one of them, those of us that are cord cutters are people who are not paying for cable and want to try to watch everything we want to watch through streaming online somehow. So I would say that the majority of cord cutters, if we're savvy, have all three of those. Because Hulu gets me brand new things. Netflix allows me to binge watch stuff. Because Hulu, most of their shows, you can't go back all the way. It's like the most recent four episodes or whatever. And then Amazon Prime, I've got it for that one reason, and then there's some things I can get there that I can't get anywhere else. But it's really interesting that they're splitting the market with people that have a different business strategy, and they're actually offering you kind of a different service.
They are, and I think it's very savvy to be a cord cutter these days, and I think it's just a matter of time that people that are older begin to catch on to this, because paying for all three of those services is much less expensive than having a cable box. Yeah,
but that's where we got to get into the CBS thing, because the big worry is that a lot of these companies, that this is going to set a precedent, and if it works at all, and I mean, I'm reading a lot of people saying, oh, this won't work. Nobody is going to pay for CBS's all-access streaming service on top of all the other stuff that they've already got. At some point, like people are gonna draw a line in the sand, and they're gonna say, I'm just not gonna pay for any more of these streaming services. So when CBS is doing this with all of these CW shows, if they put those on All Access or however they're going to do it, because I've read that they want to do like a $2 app for those, but I don't know if they're also going to put those
CW programming, not everything on CBS.
Yeah, and I don't even know what that means. I don't know if that means you pay $2 the one time for the app and you get everything, or if you have to pay it every month, or I don't know what that means. The article I read was not very specific. I also don't know,
because I have a CW app on my Xbox One, and if I have Gold, I can watch everything, like the subscription service to the Xbox Live, I can watch everything for free. Maybe I hope they don't charge me $2 on top of that.
Well, yeah, but the difference is, I doubt very seriously that has the library going all the way back, and what what this would be the library going all the way back, because they want to take it off Netflix. And
so
they
things like Smallville.
They might. Who knows? And I'm making something of an assumption, but if you look at what CBS All Access is right now, the shows they have on there is every series, as far as I know, going all the way back. So it's not just the new stuff. It's you get to watch pretty much everything CBS has ever had. If they add the CW shows, it's going to make that more viable. I've been complaining a lot about CBS All Access lately, because I think that they are ridiculous for trying to get people to spend $6 a month or whatever it is to watch just CBS shows, when Netflix is like all this stuff, Hulu is all these different companies. They think that they can get you to pay more than half of what you're paying for Netflix for only CBS shows, and then what they want to do is, when they put out their new Star Trek show in 2017, I guess that's next year now. When they put that out, they're not going to air it past the pilot on TV. They want to try to get people to pay for that just to watch Star Trek. They're not even going to put it on TV, and they think that that's a viable business model. A lot of people think they're crazy. I thought they were crazy, but the thing is, if they do this with CW, and you can't watch that on Netflix, and you can't watch that stuff on Hulu, and they haven't announced yet that they're pulling it from Hulu, but that's the next step, and that's what people are worried about. If they take it off Hulu, suddenly that becomes more viable because it's not just the one network, it's multiple networks now.
That's true.
And I would hate to have to pay for another streaming service, but I'll tell you, about 60-70% of what I'm watching on Hulu is stuff that they would either have on All Access or on that app if they're separate things. Obviously, we don't know everything yet, and it hasn't all become clear, but my point, Dan, my big worry is they're going to rope me, just me personally, they're going to rope me into a place where, since I'm a cord cutter, if I want to watch the stuff I want to watch, I am eventually going to get stuck having to pay for all these different services about what I would be paying for cable. That's my big worry.
That's true, and at least with this model, you can pick and choose. Like, it's more consumer choice, which is, I think, good in any situation. Where, like, you specifically might have to pay as much as a cable subscription for all the stuff you want to watch because you love watching television. You know, you review this television stuff for a job. But for someone that just, wants to watch...
My situation's different. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's going to, if they do that and it becomes a viable thing for them, I think it's going to affect all of the companies very differently.
Yeah.
I think Netflix will be completely fine because they've got their own original programming. They've gotten into bed with Disney, so much so that they've got Marvel shows, and there's talk about them doing like 4 Star Wars series on there. Netflix is going to be fine with those 2 things alone. Even if they have nothing else.
Yeah, they'll have and Netflix has been talking a lot lately that they want their model to be mostly original programming. They want to be a network before they're a video rental store. And you've got Hulu and Amazon dipping their toes into that a little bit, but Hulu is still going to be primarily the cable aggregate, for lack of a better word, for TV, and Amazon's going to be the internet marketplace. Those models aren't going to change so much. So yeah, you're right. Netflix would be fun. Honestly, Netflix could drop everything they've got from other companies and make their own programming, and probably still have at least 40% of the market. I don't think that they would lose very much.
I couldn't find the article, so I don't know 100% if this is true, but one of my friends was telling me, based on that number that I had shown you, about above 50% of Americans having a Netflix subscription, that they basically had confirmed what we were saying. They were saying that they're going to slowly get rid of their licenses and just do original programming.
I don't know that they need them.
It's so much more profitable to them to just bankroll their own stuff rather than paying licensing fees to everyone.
And someone else will buy that up. I mean, as soon as Netflix lost a couple of their big giant licenses where they had like the Hunger Games and all that stuff, Hulu immediately bought that up. And if you have a Hulu subscription, you've lost nothing.
Right, exactly. And I wanted to maybe this is somewhat unrelated, but I think it's pertinent to our conversation in general about streaming and how it might get rid of cable, which I think it's pretty obvious that that's the path we're on.
In a way, but I want to really delve into that here in a minute after you say whatever you're going to say, because I have a couple of theories about that. Go ahead.
I think the reason why a lot of people and businesses in general still have cable subscriptions is because that's really the only place you can get
live streaming,
current news coverage,
and anything live, basketball games.
Exactly. Once streaming services get into bed with the NFL, MLB, the NBA, NHL,
that's it.
All the different news networks, it's over. Cable's done. Those are the last bastions that cable's able to hang on to, and whoever ends up getting those permissions and things to use, they're going to be the ones that are going to come out on top on this. Now, I think CBS obviously has a great advantage because they own news divisions. They probably have deals with some of the sports corporations to air their games. I only really follow Major League Baseball, and most of the Red Sox games are aired on the local New England station. And they get played on Fox sometimes if they play the Yankees or if they play a playoff game. But I don't know too much about like what sports CBS channels air or whatever. But anyway, I don't see like Netflix necessarily like getting deals with sports games. It'd be interesting to see like would you have to have a specific subscription to like Netflix or Hulu to watch basketball games but not hockey games? Like would that splinter in the marketplace? It'd be interesting to see what would happen.
Well, and what you may or may not know, Dan, is the live streaming thing for sports has started already.
Has it? Okay.
There is but it's as far as I understand it, at least with the NBA, this is the only one I really know about. The NBA has their own. And you can subscribe to that and watch live basketball games, and it's inordinately expensive. Wow. I forget how much money it is, but I was going to do it because I've been wanting to. I'm not a sports guy, but every year I think about following either college or professional. I always think about maybe following basketball, but again, I'm a cord cutter, so I don't really have any easy way to do that. And I can watch maybe a local channel for some of it, but I thought about. I was like, if it's going to be $8 or $15 a month, maybe I'll do it through the season, and it's a lot more expensive than that. But you can go to NBA.com and you can get theirs, and you can watch it through like a Roku stick or something. So there's precedent, like this has already kind of started, but the big question is, are we gonna at some point have just like a couple of sports networks that are like the Netflix of sports, or will there be like a news one, or like how exactly does that work? The big argument that I've been hearing from people, especially on that, like I was reading some of the comments on that article about CBS today, and people were complaining that television has always been like a one-stop shop. You pay one money, and you can channel flip, and you can look at everything. The sticky thing is, the internet's not that different. There's just too many channels. Yeah. If you think about it, it's like, okay, you're paying for the internet, but then... I guess the difference, of course, obviously, I feel like a moron. The difference is you still have to pay for the different streaming services also. But the weird thing about it is it's becoming such an outdated model where there's just too many different companies trying to sell you things on the internet and sell you things to watch on the internet, that the big thing I can't figure out is how do we make it like television where people can sample a thing and then watch it, or then pay for it later, or then get the box set. Because if you have, and this is the big argument that people were making on those comments. People are saying, well, I know all these people that are binging Arrow or Flash on Netflix and wouldn't have even watched that show if it hadn't been for the fact that they could easily see it for free, and then they get addicted to it, and then they'll watch it. People think that it's going to hurt these companies' bottom lines if they don't have their stuff someplace where people can watch them that are already paying for a thing like that, instead of having to go to a streaming service for a thing that you like in the first place. I think in the future, if we ever lose cable, these companies are going to have samples. They're going to have like a pilot that you can watch, and they're going to have to work really hard to get to get people to know about their shows that they can't find channel flipping.
Do you think eventually this will congregate into some sort of business model in which it's similar to a cable box where you buy a subscription to the TV internet and you get all of them in one payment or something?
And then all those different payments would just go to the individual companies, and it'd be like $100 and you get everything.
Yeah, it'd be like a package deal sort of thing that like a cable provider would give you, but it would just be the internet Roku stick sort of thing rather than a cable box.
It's possible. What I don't know is how the number that they charge you doesn't change all the time.
Yeah.
Because this is gonna like the different services that are offered. How long is it going to fluctuate like this? Like, is it going to ever be like the big TV networks where eventually you just don't see very many coming in and out? Because right now, it's still sort of the Wild West where we haven't solidified the model yet. Like, everybody's experimenting and trying to decide what it ought to be. And it looked there for a minute like it might be, okay, you had a couple, and then you had Hulu, and Hulu is for like the new stuff, and then everybody has their stuff on Hulu, and then they get to put their own advertising on it, and that's how they make money that way, and then maybe they get a little bit of a kickback from Hulu, and then after that, it's some people put their stuff on Netflix, and some people just hope you go out and buy the box set. But now CBS is setting this precedent of, no, we want you to also pay us directly. If that works at all, and a lot of people think that it won't, a lot of people think that it'll fall flat on its face, but if that works at all, other companies are going to continue following suit, and that makes me wonder if that doesn't end up being the big thing that kind of sends cable the way of the dinosaurs.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, and I think the compelling thing, if anything, about the streaming things, even if you have to pay the individual fees and it ends up being about the same, is you don't have to have a cable guy come to your house and install a box in your house and like have all this because I don't know about you, but I've had very bad experiences with like the cable box and the cable companies because they have local monopolies over certain regions and stuff. It's just a terrible business.
Yeah, and more importantly, you're paying directly to the people that are giving you that content and not to like this mogul.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing that I love about the streaming stuff is any device connecting to the internet can access these things. Like I have my Xbox, I have my laptop, I have my cell phone. Anything that's connected to the internet can use these applications. I can use them anywhere I want as long as I have access to the internet. So, yeah. I mean, that's one advantage it has right away over cable that I think is going to kill it, even if we have to pay and everything is piecemealed out to individual providers and companies. Like, it's just easier for people.
I'm just worried that people that aren't big internet people, that aren't keeping up, are going to get really lost in the shuffle with this. We've got to think about people that are not big, internet surfers and people that live on the internet. I mean, like, we've got to think about people that are, a little bit older than us, and you got a lot of people that got to the Netflix table pretty late because they just didn't understand it, they don't know what it was, and finally they found too many of their friends were like, House of Cards, you got to watch that, that sort of thing. The word of mouth might not be enough for some of these companies early enough that it doesn't affect their bottom line. Is kind of my worry a little bit, and it just sucks for people that they would have to piecemeal and make that many decisions about their entertainment when a lot of people right now, and there are way more people apparently still watching TV the traditional way than I realized. Like I see polls sometimes where there's, and I'm not going to quote any statistics because I don't know what they are, but like I see polls sometimes about how people still mostly get their news from TV, live TV, and people still predominantly get their entertainment from live TV, and like there aren't as many cord cutters yet as you might think there would be. So I don't know how long this is going to take ultimately. Is part of the thing, but like for those people,
it's just a matter of time because like, I would imagine even if 50% of the country has a Netflix subscription, a large majority of those people still have cable. For the things we mentioned, I mean, there's just American traditions that still exist exclusively on cable, like the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just like having that one thing alone is going to keep it alive for a long time.
Well, or things
even
like,
if you don't like football, you watch the Super Bowl for the ads, or you sit around and watch with your family, your friends. You have some beers, you eat crappy food. Like that's what we do.
Dude, even the New Year's Eve ball drop.
That's right. Yes.
Things like even the Macy's Day Parade.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, what happens to that stuff? But when you say matter of time, bringing those things up makes me wonder if you're right about that.
Well, I think those things will just move to streaming.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, and we are blurring the lines between what a computer is and what a TV is, right? You can get if you get a Roku stick and all that stuff was just already there and you paid one lump sum a month, then you're right, then you're done. Then people would know the difference between cable and that. But right now, while it's piecemeal, it's gonna be kind of, like I said, kind of the Wild West. It's gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see what happens, and obviously, as a Netflix subscriber, and I do have Amazon Prime now. I was able to get a student package where you just pay $50 a year.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you didn't know about that, buy more things on Amazon because your shipping's free.
Yeah, it's awesome. I have taken advantage of it, especially with my textbooks. I've been buying.
That's great.
Textbooks from Amazon. They're much cheaper.
I feel like such a jerk. I'll go to Barnes and Noble and I'll find a book I want and I'll look it up on Amazon before I buy it at Barnes and Noble. And like right there in the store, and sometimes I will purchase it standing there in the store.
I gotta tell you, man, I've bought textbooks for. I mean, this is completely unrelated, but
no, you're fine.
I've bought textbooks for school that are like $100 less than they are retail at on Amazon. It's nuts.
I'll tell you what I was really irritated with CBS about. Let me get back to that for a second. When they announced Star Trek, and it looked very much to me, and we'll see how it is, but it looked very much to me like they were like Paramount or Paramount. CBS was less interested in making a Star Trek show and thinking that there was a lot of validity for that, and more interested in having original programming to try to sell their streaming service. And they're like, here's a thing we own that we think people might pay $6 a month to watch, and we won't put it on cable. What irritated me about that was that it breaks this model that I think is fairer that a lot of other companies have, where like HBO has a streaming service that you can pay for. But
HBO Go, right? That's what it's called.
I think so, yeah. And I don't have it, so I didn't know that. But HBO has their streaming service. But if you have a cable subscription, you don't have to pay for it because they're not double dipping. Right. CBS makes you pay for it regardless. So if you already have a cable subscription, if you want to be able to go back and look at their shows, they want you to pay for theirs as opposed to watching it on Hulu. Now you could say, well, that's not a big deal because you could just DVR or whatever and just watch it on cable. Where it becomes a huge, and I just figured, okay, well then they're just being idiots because they're not going to get people to pay for that streaming service. But when they start having original programming that they want to try to make you pay for, and they also have a cable channel, that strikes me as double dipping. Like, I don't like that.
I think the situation is a little bit different with HBO because you already have to pay a subscription service to HBO, and that's included in your subscription, whereas CBS is just included in the lump package of buying a cable service.
Well, that's true.
The base price.
I guess I'm just saying air it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just saying just air it. But because because Netflix doesn't have a TV channel on cable. So you can't say just air it because they don't have another place. They are one thing, but like I just think it's weird to try to put your toes too much in both places and try to double dip like that because they're hoping to get the people that are already paying for cable and watching their stuff. But I mean, that's a compelling argument about HBO and how they already make you pay for a thing. I still don't like that they're not going to air it though.
No, I agree. At the very least, the upside of what they're doing with it, I can see. I would hope. I don't know who's involved, and you probably know much more about it than I do, so you can say if I'm completely off base in saying this.
Yeah.
But I would hope that what CBS is doing with the Star Trek series is saying, look, we want to make our own streaming service, and we're going to be like Netflix was with House of Cards. We're going to make a spectacular show that people are going to want to watch, and they're going to subscribe to our service for it. I would hope that's the approach that they're taking. That may not be what they're doing, but I would hope that they're trying to incentivize people by making that show as great as it can be with a budget that they wouldn't be able to afford to on a regular TV budget.
And that is the tack they should be that's what they should be saying. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, if it's a lie, they shouldn't be saying that. But I mean, like, if the budget is bigger than it would be, if they are afraid that it wouldn't be valid because that's an expensive show to make, and admittedly, that is an expensive show to make. You gotta have these big standing sets, and there's a lot of special effects. I mean, yeah, it's not a cheap show to make. But I mean, you look at Supergirl. It looks like whatever budget they have for Supergirl, you could make a Star Trek show on. Right. But they might be thinking it's not going to be valid for regular television, but we think it would be for the streaming service if people would pay for it. The problem is that in all the press releases, when they announced they were doing it, the discussion has been, or what they've been selling it on too much has been, look how great this streaming service is already. They haven't said anything about, like, we're going to do more shows this way, or not very much. It's been more like making a big deal out of, look how many, like, the number of episodes we currently have that you can watch on our, and it just sounds silly compared to Netflix. They boast like 20-something thousand episodes, and you're like, okay, like it's, it's really strange. But you're absolutely right. I mean, like, the whole thing was, we need your support to be able to make the thing in the first place, and then we're going to make some more really cool shows after that. But it reads more like Dirty Pool than that. On the other hand, if they're adding CW shows to it, that would at least make it more of a thing that more people would feel like they needed to get, I guess. Mm-hmm. If they had, all the, especially all the superhero shows and stuff, going all the way back. I don't know that that's fair or anything, but at least it would at least make it a thing more worth having.
So the superhero shows going back, like, I'm just not privy to like all of the DC shows going back, but like, do they have the rights to a lot of the much older like superhero things that have been on television, like the George Reeves show or anything? Like, I just don't know a lot about the history of those shows and where they.
I don't know either. It's a good question, but if they did, that would be a big selling point. If there was I'm talking about superhero because those are the shows that people are most worried about with CW losing right now, because that's their big bread and butter at the moment. And obviously they have other things. Netflix has Supernatural right now. I don't know if this is going to affect Buffy and Angel. All of Whedon's stuff is there. I don't know if they're going to lose those shows. I don't know if they're just worried about the stuff that is currently airing. There's even been some talk that Netflix would have the rights at least until... Well, no, because the contract's going to be up. That Netflix might even still have the rights to the shows they have, the seasons they have now. They just can't do the next seasons. I don't know if that's true, but I've even seen people talking about that. They seem more concerned about what's currently airing than anything, but they could really beef up CBS All Access if they put a bunch of stuff from CW, especially, that they didn't have on Netflix, because people have wondered for years where Smallville is. Like, put Smallville on there. That would help a lot. Again, if they had access to more of that, of just Warner Brothers superhero stuff in general, put all the cartoon stuff there that Amazon doesn't have. But again, I don't know what all they would have access to. I wouldn't think it's everything that Warner's has ever made out of DC stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, specifically with the Netflix thing, I would imagine if CBS can just let the contracts expire on Arrow and Flash and put them on their service, I would imagine the deals that they have were piecemeal for all those shows separately. It wasn't like the CW catalog or the Warner Brothers catalog to do anything. Like,
probably not.
Lost, I would imagine they paid a lump sum for those specific television shows, and
they did well. What makes it pretty clear, I think, that you're probably right about that is, again, they don't have Smallville. I mean, like, if they don't have most of the catalog, then they probably did buy them piecemeal.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It also makes me wonder, and I said this when they announced Star Trek, it also makes me wonder if CBS is going to pull Star Trek off of Netflix.
Probably, I would imagine, yeah.
And that's in a couple that's on Hulu too, I think, some of it at least.
I better start watching my Next Generation episodes, huh?
Well, just let's be selfish for a moment and talk about how this sort of thing might affect us, because I would assume that you're watching Flash on Hulu, probably.
I watch Flash on the CW website.
Okay, because if this happens if they do the same thing with Hulu that they're doing with Netflix, and that seems like the next logical step to me, you're not going to be able to watch it there probably, unless they let you watch the most. I watch it on my laptop, or I watch it on my Xbox on the CW app. So I would imagine I'm going to have to pay for the CW updated app or whatever on my Xbox, and then the app for my laptop. I mean, that's my worry too. Now, here's what's weird though, because I got to give CBS credit where it's due. They don't make you pay for every episode if you go watch it on their website. Now, their player sucks. That's part of the problem with CBS All Access, is that you're going to pay $6 a month for a player that breaks down a lot. And I don't know if they make that ad free or not, but if they make you watch the ads, the other thing I hate about CBS's player is they don't have any control of they don't like the volume is different between commercials, which gets really irritating. When you watch Hulu, it's one straight up same volume. You watch something on that, and I have to have my finger on the audio control on my keyboard in case it gets really loud and someone's trying to sleep in the house or something. But anyway, so that's irritating. But that's neither here nor there. One thing I do appreciate with CBS is they do have recent episodes that you can watch without having to pay for CBS All Access, but it's very hit and miss, and you're never sure which ones are going to be free or not. Like, they'll put one up that you have to watch on CBS All Access, and then like a week later you can watch it.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't help me because I'm reviewing things on Primetime Crisis, but if you want to keep track of it, you can probably still watch those shows for free and legally and not have to pirate.
Right.
But you have to, watch it maybe a week or two late, and whatever, because CW, now they've gotten way better, but back in the day when Smallville was still on, they used to be totally inconsistent about when they put new shows up. It wasn't the next day or even a week later, sometimes it would be like 10 days later, and it was really random. You never knew when they'd finally put it up, and so But anyway, so I'm just saying that, like, they still make it kind of possible to watch things online. They just don't make it easy.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The only thing that I think is a potential downside for them, even if their service is successful, I think it just takes a lot of eyes off of their shows.
That's my problem with it.
I can't imagine, like, even if CBS All Access is moderately successful enough that it becomes a sustainable business model, having those not on Netflix, you're just by virtue of the amount of people who are subscribed to the service, you're going to have less people watching it.
And I feel like the model, even if they have all the episodes of a show going all the way back, the model is so much about get this service, or the way they've been spinning it, a lot of it is get this service so you can keep up with current. They're really not thinking enough about people that want to wait until a season is over and then watch it. Like, there's a lot of people that are just bingers and they don't want to watch week to week.
That's how I prefer to watch shows, to be honest. So I can just watch them on my own time. Like, that's I keep up with The Flash and Star Wars Rebels because I do the show with you guys.
But that's the only reason.
I much prefer to watch things on my own time. Like, if I want to watch 2 episodes, if I want to watch half of one, if I want to watch a whole one, whatever.
Well, think about it. 50% of America, apparently, according to that study that we saw, watches Netflix. Netflix is creating a culture of binging. I was calling it binging before that was a real popular thing to say. Now everybody calls it that. They've created a culture of that, and a lot of people have been kind of conditioned to watch TV shows, no matter how they were intended to be watched, as 13, 22, 26-hour movies. And that's going to continue to kind of hurt the traditional TV model, too. Now, once again, CBS All Access does seem to be trying to make it to where you can watch that way if you want to. But I just feel like you said, it's not going to get it in people's hands right away. Like, you're going to have to already want to watch something from them in order to in order to do that. So, like, what do you do? Like, I feel like it would be smarter to keep their... Now, maybe this wouldn't be cost effective. I don't know. I think it would be smarter, Dan, to keep their contract with Netflix and just not give them as much. Like, just keep it like a season behind. Like, they have season 4 of Arrow, but next year they'll get rid of it and have season 5 of Arrow, and just or they'll only have the first season of everything. And the thing is, Netflix has bought things that way before. I mean, we've all watched things on Netflix where we're like, why don't they have all of it? So
yeah,
I think
I'm especially frustrated with that with like the Twilight Zone. There's only like specific seasons on there. They don't have all of the whole
and I don't know why they bought it that way, but wouldn't it make and I'm assuming that that's because of the way they bought it, but wouldn't it make so much sense, Dan, to say we've got the first season of Arrow, first season of Flash, Supernatural, whatever, and then if you got addicted to it from that first season, then you go get All Access. They should keep one season there, and I feel like that would probably be cost effective, but I don't know.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see the future of these services, what happens with them, because I think one thing that we haven't considered as well is, what if one of these streaming companies gets bought out by a large media corporation like Disney, and then they become comparable to CBS, and it's just a battle between those companies again, right? Like, Netflix has gotten so far into bed with Disney. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Disney purchased them.
If that was like their next big purchase. And then what happens if Disney owns Netflix with all those different contracts they have with other companies? Like, would Disney want to get down to where, of course, as you said, Netflix is already talking about dropping a lot of things and only being original programming, but I would imagine that Disney would... That's how they do it. It would become like Disney's streaming service, and they would only put their stuff on it, and then all of those contracts would have to go someplace else. But then that's okay, because it creates, potentially, because it just opens up the market for other companies to come in and do that. But then once again, you end up with more streaming services, potentially.
Well, I mean, I think it might even get to the point where all of the major media companies producing all of the mainstream entertainment would just have their own streaming services.
Yeah.
Like, Netflix would be the Disney one, the CBS one would be All Access, and then Warner's could buy Hulu or something. Like, you just don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in that regard too, because I can't see CBS being the only company interested in directly having a piece of this pie if it goes the way that it keeps going. It's getting to the point where like the media establishment in the country is acknowledging that streaming is a legitimate way of presenting television, telling stories. I mean, for the past 2 years, the new House of Cards trailers have debuted at the Golden Globes. Like, everyone is behind this being a thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's considered legitimate television, and nobody's talking about it like it's anything else. I mean,
exactly.
Like,
so,
I had to... Originally, with the Primetime Crisis Awards, we were going to have a category that was streaming, and I took that down and said, let's just lump it all together now.
Exactly. I mean, there's literally nothing stopping this from being the way that we're going to be watching television in the future. The technology is superior. Everyone acknowledges it as being superior. The best shows on television, in my opinion, are streaming services. I mean, there's ones that are comparable, obviously.
Well, there is one big thing that's trying to halt it and make it take longer, certainly, and that's of course the big cable moguls, as I keep calling them,
right?
And the companies that they are furthest in bed with, trying to cling to the old models and keep it going as long as possible. So I mean, like they're gonna really string this out as long as they can, but it's not gonna work forever.
And something you have to think about too is a lot of these cable mogul companies are a part of these same companies that contract out with Netflix as well.
Yeah,
like Time Warner Cable is of course a part of Warner Brothers, and they have dealings with Netflix because of the things they put on there. So, I mean, those companies already have their fingers in there. It's just a matter of getting rid of their old business model and fully investing in the new one.
And they're really afraid to do that.
Yes, for some legitimate reasons, I suppose, because they make a ton of money from news and sports. I think those are the two things mainly holding them back, like we said before. But I can see a lot of these companies just buying one of the streaming services because there's already an infrastructure. Like, whoever buys Netflix, they have access to an infrastructure that exists in 130 countries. Like, CBS All Access is building its infrastructure from the ground up. They have to build their own player and service. Like, whoever buys, if Netflix is bought out by somebody, I mean, it's kind of game over, right?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and then you're just already getting a lot of money straight away. Anything, right. but it's exactly the same thing as when Disney bought Marvel or Star Wars. Like you're
in another thing that would be interesting too. We were talking about the problem of Netflix being a middleman. What happens if these companies are able to effectively eliminate the middleman that is cable providers by having their own streaming services? That's potentially interesting too, because then they don't even have to be beholden. In a way, it could be eliminating the middleman if Netflix is bought by somebody and they become a part of the companies that are putting out the entertainment in some way.
I would just love to know what the percentage is right now of Americans, and I guess people worldwide, but just in this country, of people that don't have any.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it is close to 50%. I wonder if the majority of people that have anything have Netflix. And because the thing is, if we are still looking at a market where somewhere between 30 and 50% of people that watch television don't have any streaming service at all, we're a long way to eliminating cable.
Yeah.
Because you've got people that just...
Think about it. Well, we could be. I mean, as people that are, cord cutters, I mean, I still have cable in my house because I live at my parents' house currently. I'm in college, and they have cable because they use it, for the various... My dad loves football. They watch the news there.
Yeah.
But as people that are so engrossed in this, I guess maybe we're a little bit too optimistic.
Well, and not just optimistic, but I think also lacking maybe a little bit in perspective, because we have to remember that we are that we're younger. You're younger than I am, but I mean, like you grew up almost entirely in an era where the internet was a thing. I did too, for the most, after the age of 12. And we've been, around this stuff for a long time, and we're seeing the changes, and we're not setting our ways to the point where we don't want to look at the future and see how it's going to change, and be forcing ourselves to do it the way we always did it. But you got a lot of people older than us that are, and that will be that way until they're gone. And it makes me wonder if it doesn't take 30, 40 years.
I would say it's probably going to be majority of people. I mean, this is just me completely speculating. I don't really have anything to support my thesis here. but I feel as if we're at 50% of the country subscribes to one streaming service, within a generation, it's going to be the norm to at least have a subscription to one of these things for like 90% of the country.
Well, and I guess the thing that would support that is if you went, potentially, it would be if I'm right about this and you went back and you looked at stats of technologies that weren't real prominent at first and then got bigger and bigger, like VHS and then DVD and things like that.
Can you imagine when your son Jason is your age that streaming isn't like the normal thing and cable is dead? Like, I can't imagine that. Like, I can't imagine cable being around by the time, Jason is your age.
I think it would be nuts if it was, but I also wonder just how long some of these companies are going to be able to cling to it and convince people that it's still not better, but like, just, you've always done it, you should keep doing it. Like how long does that keep going? There's been so much talk about like the death of Hollywood, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean,
I guess my point is, you could, now this is a very different thing, but you could say, well, you can stay at home and watch a movie. Like, it's very easy for companies to just give you a movie as soon as it comes out digitally, and we're sending movies to movie theaters digitally now as opposed to shipping them a reel. Why are people still going to movie theaters? And so then you have to break down that's still, like, why that still exists, and it's because people like to get out of their house and they like to watch it big and all that stuff. Is TV, is the novelty for some people of watching a thing when it first airs enough that they might be able to hold on to that for a long time until, because the big difference is you're not going to have live TV on the internet. That's never going to happen. Like you will for basketball games, you will for news, things like that. But like, you're not going to have first run shows. So, like, you're not going to have that. Everything's going to be streaming in the first place. And I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing as movie theaters, but I'm wondering if companies can't like convince some people set in their ways that it's enough of a novelty to keep it going.
That's true. I mean, when I was a kid, it was always kind of like whenever the family's favorite show was on the television, like at 8 o'clock at night, that was an event, Yeah. The family would all sit down in front of the couch and watch the new episode as it aired.
Manos still watches everything when it's on. Like Manos is always talking about how I don't watch the show because it comes on too early in the morning or something like that. And I was like, Manos, like, get with the times. But like, but there's and I'm not making fun of Manos. There's I sort of missed that to a degree too. Like, there's something to be said for that also. And so I'm with you, Dan. I can't imagine it, and yet I wonder.
Yeah, right. And the thing with movies, I think it's interesting to loop that conversation into here as well.
Yeah.
They're already starting to just put out straight up movies made by people from Hollywood on Netflix and not put them in the theater. Like,
Amazon too.
Movies aren't as popular as they used to be, but like, he recently signed a deal with Netflix where he's just going to put all the movies he makes on Netflix, and the day they're released, they're available to watch.
It seems like that's what a lot of old washed out comedians are doing right now. Yeah. We saw that with what's the name of that guy who was one of the thugs in, one of the thieves in Home Alone. You had Joe Pesci and then you had the other guy. That guy, a lot of people really dislike that guy. Don't think he's funny, and he's got a show on Netflix now. Like, all these washed out comedians.
But my point is, like, maybe, Netflix streaming could be the thing that kills movie theaters eventually. I mean, Hollywood will still exist in the sense that they will. I mean, I'm sure movie theaters will exist in some capacity.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that'll change where Hollywood is majoritively just putting things out on streaming and having licensing deals. I mean, Hollywood will still make movies, but it won't be like based on box office sales anymore.
Maybe people, now this is going to sound absurd, but hear me out, because nothing seems impossible to me anymore. The big novelty of going to a movie theater is you leave your house, it's a really big screen, you have this great surround sound.
I love
you can't you can't practically put that in your house. Most of us, and you'll have people that have theater rooms, but there's still not going to be a screen as big as a movie theater. It's fun to take a whole bunch of people to go there, and just popcorn, and it's different than what you buy at home. So there's reasons to do it. I could see, maybe this is going to sound ridiculous. I could see movie theaters streaming Netflix, and what they do is Netflix has a thing that they get the first week or two or whatever they want their theater run to be, and only the movie theater Netflix gets it. And so you go to the theater and you watch it, and then it's on your Netflix like the next week.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be cool.
I could see something like that happening, Dan.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that. That's really interesting.
I just now thought of that, but like, or maybe it wouldn't be exactly Netflix, but it would just be like, you get a thing at the theater, and you still have a theater run sort of, but then it immediately goes to Netflix.
No, I mean, that would be really cool, because I'd be willing to go to the theater to watch some of their shows, too. Like, seeing Daredevil on the big screen, that'd be amazing.
And I wish they'd do some of that, too, because, I mean, like we've gotten some of that with... By the way, I love Fathom Events. I think the Fathom is a wonderful company.
Yeah, those are really cool.
They put out some really...
To one, but the fact that they do them is awesome.
One thing they do is there occasionally there'll be a show where they'll put out the season premiere. And and you go, and I don't know if it's like a week before or if it's the day it comes out, but like people will go and pay.
I think they did that with Game of Thrones, actually.
And they did it with Doctor Who. Yeah, I think they did it. I think they've done it with some of the Christmas specials, and they've done it. And I think they might have done it with the first episode of Capaldi, but I don't remember.
Cool.
But I know they've done it with Doctor Who. I wish they'd do it with Netflix. I think it would be such a coup if you could go watch the first episode of House of Cards that way, or binge the whole season with like a couple hours in between here and there. Like,
that would be really cool. Like, how cool would it be if you could go to a movie theater? You're like, I would like a ticket for House of Cards season 1, episode 4. You know?
Well, and then it would almost be like bringing back movie serials. In a way.
Yeah, that's
imagine if people binge watched at a movie theater just because it's a movie theater,
And then it would be so meta if you went to a movie theater to watch the resurrection of a movie serial, and it was the Star Wars Netflix television show. Like, how meta would that be?
It would, because you're seeing all these old school practices that are coming back suddenly for whatever reason, because people like like good customer service and stuff. It's just really interesting how many.
It's encouraging, because
it is.
I like interacting with people.
Yeah, me too, Dan.
You'd think that would be a given, but
yeah, not in this day and age. Well, anyway, Dan, any final thoughts? We've been at. I don't usually do hour-long GNNs, but this was the gift that kept on giving.
Get a conversation.
I think so too.
I feel like we could keep going for a while, but at the moment, I can't think of any other direction to go in. I just want to know what, the subscribers think, and just to see if anyone else has any ideas about it, because it's a really exciting time to live in.
It is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, and it is fostering so much creativity. The streaming thing. Now, I don't know if that creativity might start to get quelched a little bit down the road, as you have a lot of fighting between these companies for things and stuff. I don't know if you get to a point where you've only got a couple companies and it's you just don't have as much flowing creativity as you have right now. I don't know, but Netflix is one company, and they're putting out a variety of really interesting things, and.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I don't even know if it's feasible for any of these. Like, I'd have to look it up. I don't know how much Netflix is worth on the NASDAQ, if it's even feasible for them to be bought out by anyone, or if that'd be allowed. But yeah, it's just going to be really interesting to see what happens. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of corporate fighting for things, but hopefully the result is better consumer choice. I mean, at this point, it's working out much better than a cable subscription for me, anyway.
The big thing you have to hope is that this world we're living in right now, where anybody can, in their basement, make a thing, get it on the internet, and potentially millions of people can see it, never goes away. That's so important. And I know that might sound like it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you have a lot of people that really talented independent people, and it's so much cheaper to make good quality video stuff than it ever has been before, that are getting deals with some of these companies and getting stuff on Netflix and things like. And that's why I say I hope we don't lose this this kind of creative, Wild West we're in right now, because if if that ever goes away, it's gonna be like cable was. And
I think it's gotten rid of the gatekeepers. It's democratized this the ability to make film exponentially. I mean, like one of the examples I think is one of the coolest was I think it was the guy who made that Mortal Kombat web series, and now he's getting to make the movie or for whoever owns the rights to that. Like that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Because that's a property they were probably sitting on, like, oh, the last movie we made was so bad that no one ever wants to see another one of these ever again.
Yeah, this guy made a fan film and revitalized the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's
potentially
it's so cool.
Well, anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Geeks and Nerds. And as Dan said, please leave us your comments and tell us what you think about this. Both where you think this is all going, predictions. Make wild, insane predictions. And, like mine, Netflix in the movie theater. Make wild, insane, completely unsubstantiated claims. And
let's be honest, an alien invasion will ruin all of this.
We'll never know. Yeah, we're gonna get sucked into a vortex. We'll never know. But leave your comments. Let us know about that. Also, I'd love to know what people think about how CBS is approaching the shows. I know a lot of people are going to be upset that, and for good reason. I mean, I'm trying to be objective and look at this from a business standpoint. And you're running a business. What would you do? But I know that a lot of people are going to be irritated that they're going to lose their superhero shows off of Netflix and things like that. But what do you think about that? Is CBS good at shooting themselves in the foot? Is no one going to pay for that? If CBS got all the CW shows on All Access, would you pay for it? I'd like to know that. So leave your comments. Also, if there's something you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. And thanks as always for watching. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And we'll see you next time.